Hey, it's Kevin from Cuca, and yet again, another video blog. Today I wanted to tell you about a lesson that I learned from my obsession of Japanese food. Now, over the last 20 years, I have consumed immense amount of Japanese food. I have become obsessed with the flavor, the preparation, the manual dexterity, basically everything Japanese, and I love it because of the journey that it took for me to get it. And there's a lot to be learned in that journey. Let me explain. 20 years ago, Japanese food was a heck of a lot less popular globally than it is today. You couldn't find restaurants outside of Japan that weren't serving very simple dishes. Today, you can find Japanese restaurants in any city in any country on the planet, and there's a reason for this. So this is what happened. The Japanese food concept 20 years ago was pretty set in their ways. What Japanese loved and knew was delicious was not necessarily what foreigners globally thought was delicious. There's some pretty weird stuff in Japan. So what happened is they just assumed that people would love the same food that they love. And that didn't happen at all. As a matter of fact, people couldn't even fathom the idea of eating raw fish. 20 years ago, it was disgusting. You saw raw fish and rice, and people are like, no way. So they did something very clever. Instead of simply serving their ingredients with their technique and saying, good luck, they changed the concept a little bit. They still served their technique and their ingredients, but they made a small modification and they incorporated Western flavors. Wow. Now, they did it through one very clever package, which was the California roll. And instead of sushi being seaweed, traditionally, rice, and raw fish, they flipped the seaweed, they put it on the inside, so the outside was white fluffy rice, and they cooked all the ingredients inside. So rather than raw fish, you had cooked crab, avocado, cucumber, and mayonnaise. Things that everyone could get a hold of. Everybody was on board. And it became the hook for the concept. And the California roll was born. Now, people fell in love with this bloody California roll. And the minute they did, they immediately became more open-minded at the idea of trying other delicious Japanese preparations. So the lesson that I learned is there must be a small amount of comfort built into any meal for somebody to want to try it and potentially find it delicious. Because being too far ahead actually puts you far behind. And scaring the hell out of somebody for either a concept, a technique, or an ingredient, as long as it's properly packaged and there's an entry-level understanding, has the ability to be very successful. Can you imagine now, 20 years later, people love Japanese food. And not only love the dishes that I'm speaking of, I mean, people are willing to try crazy Japanese food, like fish sperm or a fish like fugu that, if improperly prepared, will kill you. How far we've come. Build the comfort and they will follow. If you build it, they will come.